I go, no, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, what do you mean no? I go, no, I'm not criticizing that idea. It's not homicide. I go make that show. I go, it would be a complete, I don't know, it would be like selling out in a way that is just anathema to like just do it. And he was like, so that's your final? And I go, yeah, that's it. I'm not doing it. The meeting is supposed to be an hour. The meeting is now like 5-10 minutes in. So he says, okay, well, I go, hey, I flew out here 5 hours. I got to fly back tonight because we were shooting. I said, I want my hour. So he went, what do you mean? I go, I want you to bring all the press people in. I want you to bring all the marketing people in. I want to talk about, if this show isn't working, I want to know what they can do to help me get more people to watch the show. I figured, fuck it, it was over, so burn that bridge, right? So
what was his response?
We sat there, he brought everybody in, and we talked, and I'm sure the minute I left, he said, fuck this guy, and the show's over.
And how'd you find out? Did he call you? Or?
Oh no, they never call. You hear it. Somebody calls somebody. But what happened was he got fired right after that, and then the guy that they brought in decided that he wanted to do a 2-hour homicide movie. That was that was the end of the show, basically. So we got to do a final episode, fortunately.
And you also did one of the first kind of internet.
Yes, yeah, we did it. We had a thing called Second Shift, where this was the brainchild of a very talented woman at NBC.com, which was just starting out at the time. And she said, we'd like to do, shoot on your set with different actors, and we'd shoot these webisodes, I guess they're called now, but I don't know what they called them back then. These people are the other shift. And so I just thought that was like the coolest idea I'd ever heard. And then what we started to do was we did a story, and they did a story, and some of our actors appeared on their webisodes. And then we wrote an episode that was about the internet, and we brought some of their characters onto the actual show. So it was a lot of fun. I don't know if it meant anything to anybody, but it was the first television show to ever do that.
Were people talking to you about it? I mean, it was so new.
Yeah. I think people were like, I think people were like, well, what is that? But it was fun.
Has the internet been essential in your subsequent shows?
No, we did it on Oz. We had a virtual prison you could go to and walk around the prison. But what I love about it is when any of those things, whether it's a book or a internet piece, where it tells another piece of the story. If it's just the same stuff that you could get on TV, then I'm not as interested in participating. But if it's like, well, we're going to take this and then tell it from over here on the internet, then I'm like, yeah, let's try that, because you just want the story to be even more fully told,
Do you actively participate then?
I try, I try, well, let me put it this way. I'm active up to the point where I don't want to be intrusive, because the people who do these things are usually very smart and have a whole, they're much younger than me, and so you have to respect the fact that they know what their audience is going to want more than I know what their audience is going to want, because I'm certainly not their audience. So I try to be respectful and just make sure that the integrity of the show isn't being hurt.
Well, let's move to Oz.
Okay.
Talk about how that show came about for you.
Well, I had wanted to do a show about the penal system, and I had pitched various versions of it to various broadcast networks. All of them basically chased me out of the room and said, get out of here, this is never going to work. And so I kind of put it in the back of my head, and Rob Keneally, who's a friend of mine, who a very intuitive guy, was over at HBO having a meeting. Now, HBO at the time was not the HBO we know of today. They had no drama series at that time. They were known for showing movies. And they said to Rob, we would like to get into scripted television. And he said, well, do you have an area that you're looking for? And Chris Albrecht said, well, we do very well with our prison documentaries. And light bulb went off in Rob's brain, and he said, well, I got just the guy for you. And he called me and he said, get your ass to California. There's somebody who will actually do a prison show. So I went out and talked to HBO about it, spent about 2 years doing research, going in and out of prisons and stuff, and playing with various versions of the idea. And finally, I gave Chris a script, and he said, let's shoot it. And we shot it, a presentation, like a 20-minute presentation. And we went to Chris's office. Barry and I went to Chris's office and watched the presentation with him, brought him the presentation. Now, that never happens. Never happens in a million years. You sit with the president of a network and watch the presentation with him, or the pilot with him. Anyway, Chris watched it, asked us a couple more questions, said, okay, let's go. Let's do it. And that was it. And we were on six years, and made 8 episodes a year, except one season we made 16. And again, it was a blast. A great cast, an extraordinary cast of actors. And you know, people say to me, "Oh, you got to go to HBO, and you could, you know, language and and that actually wasn't what was the most exciting thing for me. The most exciting thing for me was, because there were no commercials, I didn't have to force those act breaks, you know, the big emotional, ooh, we're going to an act out, oh, it's got to get to a heightened emotional place. And each story within the episode, each character's story within a particular episode, I could tell for any length of time. So one week it could be a story about Beecher that lasted 20 minutes, and the next week it could be, the next piece of Beecher's story could be 2 minutes. There were no rules. And so that, as a writer, was incredibly liberating for me. Incredibly liberating. I mean, beyond anything I had ever experienced in television before, because there truly were no rules, and HBO was wonderfully encouraging in letting me try anything that I thought would work. And you know, they were, Chris Albrecht said to me, I don't care if the characters are likable as long as they're interesting. Now, that was, hearing that out of the mouth of a network executive, I was breathless, because all you ever hear is, I don't think the audience is going to like him. Why does he have to be so mean in that scene? I mean, they're always trying to flatten the character out and make him or her so incredibly likable that there is no dimension to them whatsoever. So that was thrilling. It was thrilling to do that show, and you know, the actors were so courageous and so willing to try anything, and more than that, coming to me going, you know, I think my character, and they would like come up with something I would never have thought of, and that was just great. So.
Okay, well, going back, so you say you spent 2 years researching the prison to get down to what did you get from that 2-year experience that went into the actual world that you
Well,
created?
what I normally, when I do research, like when I followed the homicide unit in Baltimore around, or when I went to hospitals before St. Elsewhere, because I always try to do that kind of research, I always take a little pad and I write down everything. Oh yeah. Oh, what did she say? I decided with Oz that I wasn't going to take a pen and pencil into the prisons with me. That I was just going to let the environment speak to me, and let whatever I remembered be